Okay guys, so this is for the orange belt material, water belt material, and it's going over the stances. Now if you take a look at the manual, you realize that there are no new stances in the orange belt. What it does is it changes the focus of attention from the external part of the stance to the more internal aspects of the stance. Now this goes into psychophysiological reactions to posture. Now we know that scientifically we know that if I slouch over, it tends to show and display a body language of someone who's kind of defeated, someone who's kind of heavy and not so excited. But when you are excited, your chest is up and out, you're higher, you're lighter on your feet, you're more expressive with your hands. So if my mental state can affect my posture, we know that if we adopt a specific posture, it can also affect the mental state. Okay, so this is what the stances are all about. Now, I'll go into the first one, which is the front-leaning stance. The front-leaning stance, as it implies, I'm leaning forward. So even though you'll see in a lot of karate stances, they want to be up here, in our system, we adopt a little bit more of the, the head, knee, and shoulder, the head, knee, and feet should be on this same plane, right? Implying that I'm leaning forward. All right, for the bone alignment and also for the spinal alignment. Now, when I'm there, here's the thing. Because I'm leaning forward, if I were to lean in, I'm going to turn a little sideways. If I were to lean in and do this, and I want you guys to try this. I know it may sound funny or may seem funny, but just try this at home or wherever it is that you're seeing this video. Disguise it if you need to. But if I'm here, I lean forward and I point and I look down my finger and hold on for a second, hold that posture and ask yourself, how do you feel? Does this feel passive or does it feel aggressive? Does it feel tranquil or does it feel active? Right? So this is just one example of my physical posture changing how I think and how I feel. So this is the same thing. Front leaning stance, naturally I want to have this feeling inside of me arise. This is very similar to the posture that you would have on maybe a football player or a person who's about to take off sprinting. It's not all that different. It's that preparation to go, right? It's that preparedness to fire, right? You're that bow and arrow. As a matter of fact, in yoga, there's a lot of times where this is it's a warrior stance, right? But also in Chinese martial arts, it's the bow and arrow stance. So you start to see all of these characteristics cross-culture describe the attributes that go along with this stance. So if I'm in this stance, I got my back leg straightened out, have this forward posture. Doing this, I should practice this, hold this for at least 1 minute. And the lower, the better. If I can hold it really low, and I hold it there for a whole minute. Time yourself. Work yourself starting from a minute and work your way to longer periods of time. And as you do that, build the intent within yourself. At least allow yourself to connect with the intent of not anger. It's not anger. It's just intensity, right? It's fire element. I'm moving forward. I want to just take off. On that bow and arrow, you're under all that tension. You let it go and it just takes off. That's what you want to build. And over time, as you take that stance, immediately it's almost a hypnotic trigger. It's a full body position, almost like a hypnotic trigger is the best way to put it. In mudra work, where you start going over different hand positions, there's similar principles where you meditate and you do certain breath work and you do certain things to instill the state of consciousness that is associated with the hand position. So it ends up working almost like a hypnotic trigger. So in this case, we're doing the same thing, but in full body posture. Right? So I take a long bow stance and I take a long forward-leaning posture so I can show my intensity. All right? And that's it. That's Senkutsudachi. That is the forward-leaning stance, and that's the characteristics of it. Okay, so now we go into we're going to go in the opposite direction now. So we're going to go into Kokutsudachi, or the back-leaning stance, right? The word kutsu means to lean. Zen is forward, ko is backward, so I have Kokutsudachi. So here I have my weight shifted to the back, my arms are, you see this a lot in ninjutsu, or at least in taijutsu I should say. So you're here all out like that, or even in certain karate stances, maybe a little longer. So here, this kind of a thing. It doesn't really matter your hand position. I don't care if you want to have bunny ears. It's just a matter of this backward leaning posture. Now, to make this a little bit more conversational, if I'm like this, lean back away from someone in conversation, try it. How do you feel? We're leaned back. What are we doing? Oh, I'm observing. I'm taking a look at what's going on. Oh, I see. I understand. But I'm also covering myself, right? It means that there's some level of discomfort. There's some level of, I don't want to be too close to you. So this is that water element of caution, yeah? Dealing with pressure, with danger. So in my back-leaning stance, I've taken myself a little further away to at least appear further away than my opponent. And this is more of a receptive stance. This is more of the observer stance. This is the, let me take a look and see where my openings are. Let me see where I can make them mess up. Let me try to make them miss so that I can find an opening. So this is very characteristic of water, whereas front-leaning stance was fire, back-leaning stance is water. Okay? So this is that more receptive. I'm drawing my opponent in, right? I'm baiting my opponent. Come here, right? And that goes into the characteristics of water of receptivity, the more feminine prospect, or the more feminine principle. And even when it comes to relationships and stuff like that, there's that water principle of seduction. Hey, come here. That same idea of drawing you in. All of this is water principle. Okay, so same as the front-leaning stance, you want to hold your posture. You want to have lean back. Be careful that you do not want to have your knees passing your toes in any case. That can just cause damage to your knee. What you want to do is sit, right? So if I'm doing it this way, I'm going to sit my butt down, right, and back. So it's almost like, and then I could just go ahead and lean a little bit, right? So I want to have my head, knee, and foot on that same plane. Same way I go front-leaning stance, I do it for that back-leaning stance without having my knee past my toes. All right? Preserve your knees. You want to get to an old age and still be able to run and walk and bicycle ride. You need to take care of them now. All right, so same deal. Go back into a back-leaning stance. Hold it there for at least a minute. Take that internal characteristic, the observer. Watch what's going on. Okay? Watch how you feel. Observe yourself. And then as you get better and better, you can hold it for longer periods of time. Don't forget to do both sides. All right? All right, practice. Have fun. Okay, guys, now the next one is the one in the middle, right? So this is the earth element. The earth element is the horse stance. So the horse stance is here, sitting in this posture, good posture, right? I don't want to be leaned forward like this. I want to have my legs out. I want to have posture up, knees open. All right, so this is a posture where I am straight up and down. I'm anchored, I'm rooted, I'm grounded, and I have this. What do you see when a little kid wants to be stubborn and you say, go clean your room? I don't want to. Right? It's the same characteristic. The negative attributes of the earth element is stubbornness. The positive attributes is self-confidence and self-awareness and that sense of power that I know what I'm doing. So it's different. It's like, okay, everyone wants to tell you how you should do something, even though they might have no experience whatsoever. Be confident in yourself. Know that you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, find out. And when you do know what you're doing, then don't be so easily swayed. Right? That's the characteristics of the earth element. Just doing what's practical. That's all earth element. Everything that's practical. So here, you take your horse stance. You're in the middle. Right? Careful not to lean. Have this feeling as though your head is being pulled by a string. Your neck is here, your chest is up, your posture is tall. It's like you're standing. Say, that little kid that did something, did you see me? Right? It's that same kind of a thing with the spine. But now, as your spine reaches up, your body with your stance and your posture, I don't care, some stances do it really long, some styles do it really long, some styles do it real short. Whatever works for you, whatever's within your system. If you're practicing Rinkiohen-Do, what's important at this point is that you're really getting into the internal application of this, right? Because if you can't connect the internal with the external, I mean, you're just not connected, right? Just like you want to connect mind and body, right? Here, the body is the posture. The mind is how you feel, how you think, how you act, right? That's with the mind. So you need to connect mind and body, all right? So holding horse stance once again for at least a minute. hold it there, and as you get better and better, you can go for longer periods of time. This is in the middle, so there is no shifting from right leg to left leg. You're using just both legs at the same time. All right, and that's it. That's horse stance. Okay, guys, so now the fourth of the stances is Tsuruashidachi, or the crane stance. The crane stance, different styles, you hold it up. Some styles will hold it to their leg. In our system, it's really going to depend, right? For the most part, you can hold it kind of like the yoga tree pose, right? So you're in this kind of a position, your leg is up. This is the air element. Leaning forward, fire element. Leaning back, water element. Rooted down with a tall spine is the earth element, just like the rooted tree that reaches up high to the air. Now this one is the air element. I'm raising up above, right? So even just think about what that means. Just rise up above it. And that simply means to look at it from a higher perspective. Right? So this is the air element of being slightly detached. And detached in the sense that I'm observing the scenario as a third party, even if physically I'm in it, right? And this is very important because if you're going to be able to work your way out of stressful situations, you can't do it while you're in the middle of the stress, being tunnel visioned into that stress. You need to do is allow yourself to see it from a third party perspective, from an outside perspective, as if it were happening to someone else, and observe your state, the state of what's going on, and base that on what is the outcome that you're looking for. Can you work towards that outcome in the state that you're at? If not, change it. All right, so this is the idea of the air element. So here, this is like your balance. At the beginning, it's like, oh crap, and then you're tipping over. Well, it's the same idea. You want to have this observation similar to water, right? But now it's from a higher perspective in the sense that I'm paying attention to my feet. And if I start to feel that I lean this way, then I need to fix it, right? So I start to pay attention to the little details in my body to start to maintain proper balance in my structure. So in everyday situations, it's kind of the same idea of, oh man, this person really got me upset, or this situation happened, I'm pretty frustrated. Well, take yourself out of the situation long term. Well, how much does that really matter? What can you do with it? Can you do anything at all? And then adjust your way of perceiving what's going on so that you can reach whatever your desired outcome is, right? But as far as the training is concerned, you keep the crane stance. Try to avoid too much in the beginning. If you need to hold your hands out to keep your balance, that's great. Otherwise, you just want to kind of have your hands relaxing down by your side or in front of you. Prayer position works really well. Fighting position, whatever it is that you want. You want to be able to not rely on these larger balance rods, so to speak. You keep yourself centered within yourself, okay? And hold that for at least a minute each leg, and as you get better and better, you'll be able to do it longer and longer. And if you do these practices on this particular stance, you're going to have a really, really good sense of balance. And the sense of balance is something that is very important, okay? So just take a little bit of time, and it won't be easy at first, but you'll get there. Okay, guys, so as a recap, the four main stances, there are others, the cat stance and other stances, the cross-leg stance. Those are not primary elemental ones. They're a little bit secondary. They're very similar in some ways to, like the cat stance here is a much shorter, it's a very compact form of the water element, yet it's more condensed, ready to fire as well. Okay, so that, you see a cat backed into a corner, it's ready to pounce. This is the same idea. Things are a little bit more pressing. You're still a little bit back, but you're doing so in preparation so that you have your tools ready. From here, I can fire that front leg. I can shoot forward and strike. And then the cross-leg stance, I'm coming this way. Right? It's a lot like you're sitting there and you're having conversation. You're very guarded. Right? You're very guarded. You're crossing your arms, or sometimes you cross your legs too. You have conversations with people. If they're standing like this, they're either very insecure or you're making them very uncomfortable. All right. So this is just body language that shows your psychological discomfort with the situation. So when someone is attacking, if I'm doing this kind of a thing, it's another way of guarding myself. Typically, I wouldn't move into somebody that way. If I do, I'm doing so in a guarded way. So I can still move into my opponent, but maybe using the closed guard to enter and maybe stepping on his foot so he can't go anywhere as I'm crossing. Then as I open, I extend him beyond his stance. So while the previous four were primary elemental, the other two are a little, they're secondary. One is a lot more, I'm condensed, I'm ready to shoot out, right? So this is kind of like the open guard, right? So I'm here, it's like a short version of the open guard ready to fire. And the other one is a full body expression of the closed guard, right? So this is your yin and yang and your four elements as far as your stances and your postures are concerned, right? Play with the stances, combine the attitude with what you're doing. And if you have any questions, comments, send us an email or send us a message, however you can. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're looking at this, you should be a student of Rinkiohen-Do. There's a lot of extra information in the manuals and the materials, and you should also be getting some articles. But if you have any other additional questions, send us a message. And if anything else, look at other videos. Other videos may have the answers you look for. All right, enjoy.